Judgment against the gods of Egypt, a teaching on the plagues and our carnal nature. The 10 plagues of Egypt were not random acts of destruction but deliberate judgments against the gods of Egypt. Each plague dismantled the Egyptians' belief in their deities, showing that the God of Israel, Yahweh, is the one true God. The plagues revealed God's sovereignty, power, and ability to triumph over any false god or human system. In the same way, our carnal nature represents our personal Egypt, enslaving us with desires, fears, and idols. Just as God judged the gods of Egypt, he seeks to bring his righteous judgment against the strongholds of sin in our lives. Let us explore how each plague was a judgment against a particular Egyptian deity and how it correlates to aspects of our carnal nature. 1. Water turned to blood. Exodus 7 verses 14 to 24. Judgment against Egyptian deity. Hapi, the god of the Nile, was revered as the source of life and fertility in Egypt. The Nile was considered sacred, yet God turned its life-giving waters into blood, causing death and stench. This revealed Hapi's powerlessness. Carnal parallel. The carnal nature often exalts human resources and earthly pleasures as sources of life. When we rely on material abundance for satisfaction, we become enslaved by greed and self-reliance. Call to action. Allow God to judge and transform your dependence on worldly resources, seeking the true source of life in him. John 7 verse 38. 2. Frogs. Exodus 8 verses 1 to 15. Judgment against Egyptian deity. Heket, the frog-headed goddess of fertility and childbirth, was considered sacred. Frogs were protected and revered in Egypt. Yet, through this plague, God multiplied them to the point of being a nuisance, showing he had power even over fertility and creation. Carnal parallel. Frogs symbolize unchecked desires and indulgences that seem harmless but become overwhelming when left unchecked. Lust, gluttony, and excess breed chaos in our lives. Call to action. Seek God's judgment against the excesses of the flesh, pursuing moderation and self-control as fruits of the Spirit. Galatians 5 verses 22 to 23. 3. Gnats, lice. Exodus 8 verses 16 to 19. Judgment against Egyptian deity. Jeb, the god of the earth, was believed to have control over the dust and soil. God struck at this belief by bringing forth gnats or lice from the dust, showing his dominion over creation. Carnal parallel. The dust symbolizes the mundane and petty things of life, grudges, gossip, and distractions that irritate and corrupt the soul. Call to action. Allow God to cleanse your heart of these small sins, focusing instead on what is noble, pure, and praiseworthy. Philippians 4 verse 8. 4. Flies. Exodus 8 verses 20 to 32. Judgment against Egyptian deity. Khepri, the god with a beetle-like head, was associated with creation, rebirth, and the movement of the sun. By unleashing swarms of flies, God showed his power over Khepri and the natural world. Carnal parallel. Flies represent corruption and decay, symbolizing the sinful habits we allow to fester in our lives. These habits attract more spiritual decay. Call to action. Seek God's power to sanctify your habits, putting off the old self and putting on the new self in Christ. Ephesians 4 verses 22 to 24. 5. Death of livestock. Exodus 9 verses 1 to 7. Judgment against Egyptian deity. Atha, the cow-headed goddess of love and protection, and Apis, the sacred bull, were symbols of wealth and fertility. The plague struck down their livestock, devastating Egypt's economy and discrediting these deities. Carnal parallel. The death of livestock parallels the idolization of wealth and security. When we put our trust in material possessions, we become spiritually impoverished. Call to action. Trust in God for provision, understanding that earthly treasures will pass away, but heavenly treasures endure forever. Matthew 6 verses 19 to 21.